Nissan Qashqai is the car that started the whole SUV hatchback crossover trend, at least on a mass market level that is. It's been around for 12 years, and in that time it's consistently been one of the top crossover sellers, frequently trumping the likes of the Kia Sportage, Ford Kuga and Volkswagen Tiguan. But why is that? Well, with SUV looks and practicality and family hatchback running costs, it's been hard for families to say no. But now more than ever before, there are numerous competitors looking for a slice of the Qashqai's sales. And to combat that, Nissan gave it a facelift in 2017. They even give it a new turbo petrol at the back end of 2018. So the question is, does the Qashqai still have what it takes to fend off the growing crossover competition? Let's take a look. Well, Nissan may have given the Qashqai a nice nip and tuck on the outside, but it's not really done anything on the inside. I don't really know where to start really. I'll tell you what, I'm going to start by talking about the positives. Now, aside to the design, quality-wise, it's pretty good in here. I mean, there's nice soft touch materials on the door and on the dash, and yeah, it's pretty good. It's got this nice chunky, plush feeling leather steering wheel as well. But let's talk about the design, because in this department, the Qashqai is really starting to show its age, with this cluster of buttons surrounding this outdated touchscreen with outdated graphics. And to be fair, this touchscreen is pretty easy to use. And there's that sort of orange old school lighting dotted around up here on the buttons at night and on some of the ambient lighting. And this may just be me, but on the steering wheel, these arrows are just, well, they just feel slightly out of reach with your thumb. You've almost got to contort your hand to press them, which when you're driving is not ideal. But overall, when you compare this interior to something that you find in, say, a new Peugeot with its cockpit-like design, it really does feel night and day. Well, new iPhone and Nokia 3310 might be a more appropriate analogy. But back to the good stuff, because the Qashqai does have a lot of equipment to offer, with even entry-level models getting LED daytime running lights, hill start assist, DAB radio, Bluetooth and cruise control. Now, value for money wise, you're probably better going for one of the mid-range trims. I mean, our Tekna models got things like heated seats, Nissan's around view monitor and part leather upholstery, which are all good, but not really necessary if you're after value for money. So yeah, you're better sticking to one of the mid-range trims. Practicality wise in here, it's pretty good. There's loads of little storage compartments dotted around, which are handy. You've got loads of storage under this armrest, and the glove box is a really good size as well. One thing that is slightly disappointing is the size of these door bins, unless you have a very specific sized bottle that you need holding. Now, in the rear of the Qashqai, legroom is really impressive, even if you do move this back and account for 6 footers, and headroom is impressive too. But this panoramic roof, which is optional, does eat into space a bit, and it becomes even more of a problem if you move to this middle seat, which is slightly raised. As you can see, my head just scraping it. But all round, space back here is pretty good, and you've even got Isofix fittings for kid seats. But like I say, this panoramic roof does eat into space a bit, so if you plan on transporting any tall teenagers, I would avoid it. Now, open the boot, and thankfully there is an adjustable floor which eliminates any signs of a load lift, which means loading large objects like suitcases is very easy. And of course, you can store things under this false floor, like valuables when you're out on the move, or you can even store the parcel shelf, which is always handy. Now, on paper, this boot is quite a bit behind some of its competition, with 430 litres with the seats up and 1,585 litres with the seats down. Now, under the bonnet of our test car is the 1.3 litre Dig T turbo petrol with 140 horsepower. Now, this engine replaces the previous 1.2 litre and 1.6 litre petrols, and is also the potential alternative for the Qashqai's diesels. Now, obviously, this engine doesn't pull like a diesel, although if you drop a gear and bounce the rev counter, there is enough for an overtake. And fuel economy wise, well, it claims an average of around 50 miles per gallon, but with a mixture of motorway driving and town driving, and let's be honest, as a family car, you're probably going to be doing quite a bit of the latter, we've only managed to get an average of around 35 miles per gallon, or 40 miles per gallon at a push. Tax-wise for this 1.3 litre with 130 grams per kilometre of CO2, you're looking at a 30% BAK tax bracket for 2019 and 2020. But what's the Qashqai like to drive? Well, it's exactly what a family car should be. It's smooth, no nonsense, and is very easy to drive. So much so that you quickly forget about its muscular SUV shape. Now, I'd be lying if I said the Qashqai was fun. I mean, this steering is a bit dead off centre, although it does weight up reassuringly to a 3/4 turn, and this 6-speed manual gearbox is a bit notchy, but like I said, for a family car, it's perfectly fine. It gets the job done. It's clear that Nissan hasn't tried to jazz things up too much, and it knows that cars from the likes of Mazda have got the fun factor side of things covered. One thing I would avoid with the Qashqai though is the larger wheels, as we've got the 19-inch wheels and they just feel like they amplify all the small little imperfections in the road. So the Qashqai is starting to show its age a bit. I mean, this latest model's been around since 2014, so it's bound to be. But with generous kit levels, a spacious interior, and a comfy drive, yeah, I understand why it would still make sense to a lot of people. And it may not be as carefully polished or exciting in some areas when compared to its competitors, but you know what? If you're after conservative rather than crazy, then yeah, it does the job.